Hello there, people of the internet. So if you are a fan of this channel, you have seen me talk multiple times about how the 1911 is not necessarily the ideal concealed carry option by today's standards. Now, that is of course my opinion. Obviously, wow, have I noticed this to be truth. There are plenty of people out there who wholeheartedly disagree with what I have to say, and they will claim that the 1911 is absolutely perfect in every single way. Now I don't hate on the 1911. I don't think in this on this channel, because I personally really love the 1911. But it's a mechanical device, it's a tool, and I know its limitations and what it is and is not capable of. And as a result, I know what to expect from it. And just with how today's situations have presented themselves, you definitely do not want to limit yourself with a 1911. But that being said, well, like I said, there are plenty of people who say that this right here is absolutely not limiting yourself. I've already made my stance on carrying the 1911 pretty gosh darn clear, and I'm not going to talk about I'm not going to talk about the reasons I have on why you shouldn't carry it. Instead, I'm going to talk about some reasons why it's probably a good idea to carry something like this. So, this right here, we're going to be talking about the classic 1911 design, not your 2011s, not, your 9mm 1911s or anything like that. We're talking about single stack 45 ACP 1911s. So, basically just the classics that these people who talk about the 1911 platform seem to gravitate towards. So the big factor with the 1911 is the 45 ACP, which is an absolute powerhouse of a cartridge. One thing you will get with the 45 ACP from a 1911 is 220, 230 grain projectiles, depending on what it is, the kinds of ammunition that you're using. And it's going to travel around 850 to 900 feet per second, depending on barrel length, your loading, your projectile choice, somewhere in that ballpark. Of course, there are lighter weight projectiles in 45 ACP that travel much faster. Like, I know there's some defensive loads that travel over 1,000 feet per second. But we're going to talk, standard 45 ACP ammunition that most people would be using in their 1911. The 1911 platform is designed for ball ammunition, and whereas some 1911 platforms out there, like your higher-end 1911s, can handle defensive loads like hollow points and expanding rounds and things like that, most of your 1911s out there are going to be set up and designed, the same base set original design for ball ammunition, and they're just not going to be very reliable whenever you try to shove something like hollow points through them. However, I still would not want to be hit by 45 ACP ammunition. So the big fight, the big situation that comes out with 45 ACP is people consistently try to compare it to 9mm. Personally, I think that having 9mm, a good solid defensive 9mm that puts adequate amount of energy downrange, is better than having a single stack 45 ACP. However, I will go ahead and point this out. I have personally seen several situations where somebody who is hyped up on some kind of drug, or somebody who is in some kind of situation where 9mm, like multiple center mass 9mm shots, are not enough to put this person down. Whenever you need to put someone down with 9mm, shot placement is going to be key. Now, of course, shot placement is always going to be key. The 22 long rifle to the head is going to be more effective than the 45 ACP to the toe, or a howitzer that completely misses. Shot placement is going to be key. I'm going to go ahead and throw that into this video because I'm sure somebody's going to talk about it. However, I have seen several center mass shots with 9mm that fail to put someone down because they're not hitting the computer system or the pump system of the body. They're not hitting the nervous system or the circulatory system. And as a result, the 9mm just does not transfer enough energy onto the target to be able to stop that target without hitting these vital areas. I have never, not once, seen an equivalent amount of shots put into the same equivalent areas of 45 ACP that have failed to put down that suspect. If you guys have any examples of this happening, somebody taking multiple 45 ACP rounds like they would multiple 9mm, and walking away like they would from the 9mm, but managing to do that with 45 ACP, go ahead and let me know down in the comments, because I literally have never seen that. I've seen it several times with 9mm, never once seen that with 45. As a matter of fact, I was witness to a test. I don't have it on camera or anything like that. I was literally just in the area watching this happen. But somebody had shot one of those gel torsos with a 9mm and it poked a hole right through it. And I mean, yeah, the 9mm, they were using full metal jackets for this test, by the way. 9mm poked a hole through it and the gel like shook around some, but it was a torso that had a hole in it now. Well, then he took a 45 ACP and he shot it, and it literally knocked it off the table and it fell onto the ground. So the energy transfer from 45 ACP was dramatically more than the energy transfer from 9mm. And we can see that in a lot of slow motion videos as well. 45 ACP just has somewhere around twice the mass, depending on the loading of 9mm you're comparing it to, but somewhere around twice the mass of 9mm. Although it is traveling slower, the increase in mass is just too dramatic for the projectile to not put a significant amount more energy onto its target. 9mm, since it is traveling faster, oftentimes will pass through a target without transferring all of its energy onto said target, but since this is a slower moving, fatter projectile, it does not have as much penetration as a fast moving 9mm if we're talking about ball ammunition, and as a result, more energy is going to be transferred onto that target, especially if the projectile stops inside of that target. You're going to have all of the energy transferred from the 45 ACP into that target. So the ammunition absolutely is one of the best perks about carrying a 1911. If you want to carry a 1911 and then you get yourself a 9mm, well, you're just having like the worst of both worlds. Now, the steel frame on this thing is heavy. I will acknowledge it's heavy and it's not something that I would want to carry. Now, if you're a big guy and a strong guy and you're in a place where you can carry jackets and whatnot, then go for it. But here in Florida, wearing a pair of pants is basically a death sentence during the summertime, and you'll end up dehydrating and dying, so shorts is the best way to go. Shorts and a t-shirt and concealing a full-size 1911 probably is not the best way to go. But I will say, I have literally seen this with my own eyes. I have seen polymer-framed handguns crack under normal use, especially if they do not have a magazine inserted inside of them. That polymer frame can crack, whereas something like the steel frame on a 1911 can literally be used as a hammer, and it will not care. Well, depending on the 1911 that you have, I'm sure that there's somebody out there who's going to say, I had this 1911 from this country, made in this year, and the frame cracked on it just from normal fire, and, you know, insert situation here, there's always going to be exceptions. But you have yourself a steel frame, so in the event that you run out of ammunition, because you only have 7, maybe 8 rounds inside of your single stack 45 ACP 1911, you could use that to defend yourself. However, if you try using a polymer frame handgun as a blunt object, there's a very good possibility of it cracking, and I have literally seen that myself in person with my own eyes. And I've also seen a dog chew up a Glock, and that's not going to happen with a 1911. Now, the 1911, since it is a single stack firearm, actually has an incredibly slim profile, and the fattest part on this 1911 is the grips. And you can actually go out and get yourself thinner grips to decrease the profile, like the width of the 1911, and make it even more concealable, even easier to conceal. If you are in a situation, or you have a body type, that's what I'm trying to say, if you have a body type that will allow you to carry a large handgun like this, having a nice thin handgun dramatically makes it easier to conceal. Now, you could get yourself a full-size 1911, or you could get yourself like a shorter version that are more designed with concealed carry in mind. However, as you shorten the 1911 platform, the reliability of it dramatically lessens. There's a lot of harmonics and whatnot that go into the length of the barrel, the weight, the spring system, just everything that goes into it. The gun is designed for a certain length, and as you shorten it, you dramatically cut down the reliability of an already unreliable gun with anything besides ball ammunition. But with that steel frame, my goodness, you'll have yourself a gun that'll outlast you. One thing that I don't necessarily know what to expect with these cheap polymer frame handguns is I don't know how they're going to withstand the test of time. I know here in the state of Florida, like, plastic gets brittle and it cracks after a couple of decades. Like, I have things from the 70s and 80s that basically crumble in my hands. And I'm not sure if polymer frame handguns from today are going to basically be unsafe to shoot because they're going to fall apart in your hands in 40 or 50 years. I just don't know. none of us do. No one knows how the plastic and polymer is going to hold up, whereas a steel frame 1911, this thing will outlive me. This is going to be in the hands of my great-great-grandchildren here in the United States, assuming that my family doesn't move to some other country after I'm gone. I hope not. But this is going to be in the hands of my great-great-grandchildren, and it's still going to function basically the equivalent of how it would function today, with the exception of maybe some springs would be worn out, and maybe the extractor would be worn out. The parts that actually move around and get used would obviously have to be replaced after several thousand rounds of use. But the 45 ACP Powerhouse cartridge, it is a slim profile. Although it's a little heavy, that makes it incredibly durable. There are definitely some benefits to carrying a 1911, and there are plenty of people who have carried this thing all around the world and handled all sorts of situations with it. Wow, my steel has been broken in half. Probably happened the other day whenever I was shooting it with some 8mm Mauser. Let's see if I can still hit that thing. But there have been plenty of people who have used this very effectively all around the world. And hell, I think that there's still some in use today. And it's accurate. Yeah, if you know how to shoot a 1911, it can definitely be accurate. Now, I do want to say that there are some people out there. I missed that shot, didn't I? I do want to say that there are some people out there who will talk about if your choice is a 1911 and your capacity limit, or your limitation on your capacity is one of your main concerns, and just carry more ammunition, more magazines. Yeah, that would absolutely work. I 100% agree with that. If you have something that has a limited capacity, carry more mags. However, you are still acknowledging the capacity limitations as being a problem, and you are essentially getting the same results of just carrying something that is double stacked that carries more ammunition, just with more steps. Yeah. Of course, with the trigger that's on these things, and the accuracy that can be achieved from somebody who is more accurate than myself, with the trigger, and like the single action triggers on 1911s are just known to be absolutely exceptional, and that definitely equates to accuracy. So you have yourself a good trigger, and you have yourself lots of training and lots of preparation time to get yourself prepared for your situation, and you have yourself some extra magazines, then this right here, yeah, it definitely is a viable option. I would take the 1911 over a 5-shot J-frame 38 special revolver any day of the week. I say as my 1911 jams. Oh no, this is ball ammunition that we're using as well. This is Winchester stuff. But hey, that was a 1911 jamming. Of course, this right here is just a T-sauce, dirt cheap Turkish 1911, and definitely not a higher end. The more money you're spending on 1911, the more reliable it's going to be. Ah, that was low. This right here is also not that accurate of a 1911. The more money you're spending on 1911, the more accurate it's going to be as well. But this definitely serves for good representation purposes. So thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Do you carry a 1911? I bet you do. If you're watching this video, I'm willing to bet that you do. And you're looking for some justification on why you're doing it, and some points that you can point out to people and be like, yep, that right there is exactly why. Ammo, trigger, accuracy, durable. I mean, there's a lot of perks to carrying a 1911. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description down below. Link to all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see y'all on the next episode. Oh boy, I actually have a really good idea for another video. I'll see y'all later. Been a little while since I've done this. But
Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.